Hi, I'm Danielle, and this is Chatter Out Loud, a podcast where I share thoughts and TV commentary on shows I like to watch. Now, before I start, I want to ask that you go ahead and like, follow, share, and subscribe. And on YouTube, where I upload my companion episode of my podcast, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. This way you can get a notification every time I post a new episode and you won't miss out. So welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Your presence is very much appreciated. All right, the circle is picking up. It's getting pretty good. On the last episode 4, we were left with a cliffhanger where the players were voting for the profile they believe the Spice Girls to be playing behind. And if at least 5 of the players were fooled, if the Spice Girls fooled 5 players, at least 5 players, $50,000 would be added to the grand prize. And at the end of episode 4, we saw that Brew, his guess was Rachel. Alyssa's guess was Jared. Carol's guess was Nathan. Nathan's guess was Rachel. Chris's guess was Carol. And Frank's guess was Jared. Right? So out of those 6 players, out of those 6 players, 2 of the players guessed Jared, so they guessed correctly, and 4 players guessed incorrectly. So they only needed one more house guess or one more player to guess incorrectly, and then the Spice Girls would have successfully achieved their mission. All right, the last 2 guesses before the cliffhanger from episode 4, they were expected to come from Rachel and Yu Ling. And in my last episode, I forgot about Yu Ling. I forgot about her guess. I thought Rachel was going to be the one that determined if the prize went up or not. But it was Rachel and Yu Ling. And thank you, Gina, for bringing that to my attention. I appreciate you. All right. So Rachel, she guessed Alyssa. And then Yu Ling guessed Rachel. Right. So the Spice Girls. Oh, and I should say the Spice Girls, Jared, they guessed Jared, of course. And that just confirmed that Jared is the Spice Girls. Right. And so they were all excited and like, I knew it. Oh, my God. And all of that stuff. So ultimately, the Spice Girls successfully achieved their challenge by fooling the other house guests. And as a result, the grand prize increased to $150,000. So we saw all the house guests excited about that. Not only that, the guesses really put targets on other people's back, right? Like people believe that Rachel is catfishing. Alyssa has a target on her back. John Carroll has a target on his back. Yeah, so these guesses. And throughout episodes 5 through 8, which is what I'm getting ready to recap now, a lot of targets got bigger on people's backs in this game. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so for the remainder of this recap, I'm going to attempt to summarize episodes 5 through 8. All right, so here we go. In episode 5, there was a rating. That was the only rating out of all 4 of these episodes. And I believe that was the only rating. So the ratings were Krissa. She was in last place. John Carroll and Brew were tied for 4th place. Frank came in 3rd. Yu Ling and Alyssa were the top 2, respectively, and they became the new influencers. So Alyssa was already targeting Krissa, so it was not a surprise that she talked Yu Ling into blocking Krissa. And remember, when you are an influencer, you go to that hangout room and you deliberate on who to block. And they always start off with like, okay, who do you like? Who do you want to keep safe? And Yu Ling just was not strong in her argument, nor could she persuade Alyssa, because Alyssa, once she has her mind made up of who, I mean, she is writing everything in that notebook and she already had her mind made up that Krissa was going, right? And Yu Ling could not talk her out of it. And that was unfortunate. It was kind of awkward to watch. And I've just found it interesting that now Yu Ling wants to, well, I should say, let me back up before I go there. So yeah, they're deliberating and they decided to block Krissa, right? So Yu Ling could not talk Alyssa out of it. They wound up blocking Krissa. Did I say Carissa? I meant Krissa. Alyssa and Yuling blocked Krissa, right? And Yuling did not have any success in talking Alyssa out of it. Okay. And with this blocking, the top influencer, which was Yuling this week, had to deliver the news to Krissa face to face, right? The last blocking, we saw them, like someone always has to announce it, but this time Yuling had to go see Krissa face to face and let her know. It was kind of awkward to watch, and I found it interesting that Yuling now wants to play the game in Chris's honor when she was part of the reason why Krissa was blocked. I don't get that. To me, it just felt like she was just blaming Alyssa and how Alyssa talked her into it when Krissa was supposed to be Yuling's ally. So I just, whatever. Also, everyone acknowledges that John Carroll, hashtag Mama Carroll, is a threat in the game. And even though everyone says it and they acknowledge it, they kept John Carroll in the game. So go figure. Well, one of the things that I'm not much a fan of in the game is the roasting. Last season, it was a rap battle, and they kind of roasted each other. This season, they're calling it a roast. And overall, to me, it was, Nikki, and I forget her last name. She's a comedian and she was the host of the roast. And I thought that her delivery was more entertaining than the actual roast itself. But that's what she does for a profession, so that's no surprise. But they roasted each other. And during the roast, targets, again, grew bigger and bigger on people's backs, right? Okay, so I should say 2 more players entered the game. We saw Everson playing as himself. He's 35. He's a cruise director, and he's from the ATL. And he said he said hashtag merman. He has a lot of energy and he's pretty fun. The way he walked in the room and did the Michael Jackson moves. I mean, I like his energy, and he's very much a people person. I mean, he's a cruise director. That's the person that, does the activities and makes the announcements and is so friendly with people on cruises. So this is in his wheelhouse. He is a people person. I'm not sure of his profile pic. That second one he got, he picked the one that looked like a Prince or a Prince image, the singer Prince, but okay. I did crack up when he drank out of the vase thinking it was a cup. It was the vase that was, or vase, that was shaped like a fish, and he was just drinking out of it. That was funny. All right, and the second player that entered the game was Trevor Imani. And obviously Trevor is catfishing as Imani, or playing the game as Imani, and he's 35. I didn't get the occupation. His girlfriend was Delisa, who apparently won an earlier season of The Circle, season 2, and she catfished and actually played the game as Trevor. It would have been more interesting if he would have played the game as Trevor, because maybe people would have said, hey, that guy looks familiar, and how does he play again? Well, maybe, it would have been interesting in the game, but he would have been a target immediately, right? Especially if they were fans of The Circle and have watched previous season, or season 2 specifically, right? Because they would have recognized Trevor. So maybe it is a good idea that he went in, at catfishing, playing Imani. It always cracks me up how how people are playing the opposite sex, so this is going to be interesting. And by the way, he said, yeah, I'm playing this Imani person is a real person that he's playing. It's his girlfriend's best friend, and he knows about women and stuff like that. I mean, there's some things online about him and Delisa and that relationship, but I don't know. I just looked, I had that side eye. I'm giving him the side eye, Trevor. Anyway, he's playing the game as Imani. All right. Each of the new players threw a party, and that was their only way to chat with the other house guests to start. So the other house guests decided which party to attend. Everson's party was an Under the Sea theme, and Trevor Imani's party was a toga party. And both were pretty fun. The house guest would not know who the other new house guest was until the morning after the party, right? Where they all were back in the circle. And then the house guests spend a lot of time reviewing the new people's profiles, the new players' profiles, and, doing private chats, talking, things like that. All right. Then there was another alert, and the players were notified of a data breach. The circle was hit hard by a cyber virus. The two new players, Everson and Trevor Imani, were the only two that had the antivirus software, and they were immune from the data breach. And so at this time, it was clear that this was in place of a rating, right? And having the two top influencers and blocking someone. So this data breach was in place of that, right? Anyway, each player could upload one photo from the leaked albums, and that was the data breach, right? And they could do this anonymously, and they asked their question. And the point behind being anonymous was to be able to call out or ask the question you want, and pretty much like call out someone's game and make them a target. That was the ultimate goal to me. So up to this point, Alyssa really does take a lot of notes. That girl is writing. I mean, I wonder how many books she filled up during her time in the game, right? And she's playing this game. She's playing hard. She is a threat in the game for sure. So her being in the position that she was in by the end of the episode is not a surprise. And we'll talk about that in a second. The same for John Carroll. I think he's played a really good game too. No one except for Alyssa, I think, believe he is catfishing. Yet here we are at the end of the episode 8, and the two strongest players, so we thought, are in jeopardy, and one of them will be blocked. All right. Alex Nathan, I think he's playing a good game as well. I think I should have done this summary at the end, but let me finish going through it. Alex Nathan, I think he's playing a very good game, and he's targeting those big players. All right, the two new players, they deliberated in the chat. Okay, so I'm going back to the data breach now. I don't know why I did it like that, but sorry, I'm just reading through my notes. All right, so the two new players, in terms of the data breach, they had to deliberate in a private chat because they were immune from the data breach, right? And based on what they've learned about the players and how the game is going thus far and the connections that they've made, it would all factor into who they wanted to pass the power of the antivirus to the fellow players. And ultimately what that means is that whoever they select will be safe in the game, right? And so when I saw this, I knew it was like a chain of safety, right? The two new house guests saved one person by giving them the antivirus software. That person saves another, and so on and so forth. The last player would be the player that would be blocked. And in the circle, if you're blocked, you're out of the game. So here's how the chain of safety went down. Everson and Trevor Imani saved Frank. Frank saved Yuling. Yuling saved Rachel. Rachel saved Alex Nathan. Alex Nathan saved Brew. And then they left us with a cliffhanger. And Brew will save either John Carroll or Alyssa. And given the fact that Brew is in an alliance with both of them, it's going to be really interesting to see who he picks. So that was a good cliffhanger. I really enjoyed that. So what do you think? I think he may save John Carroll, right? Both John Carroll and Alyssa, again, they are playing really good games, which is probably how they ended up in the position that they're in now because people are targeting them. And oh yeah, I forgot to say earlier, I can't remember which episode this was announced in. The circle is closed, meaning that there will be no new players entering the game after Everson and Trevor Imani, and the winner will be amongst who is in the game right now. And the players right now are Alyssa, Brew, John Carroll, Everson, Frank, Trevor Amani, Alex Nathan, Rachel, and Yuling. One of those players will be the winner of the Circle Season 4. Do you have a favorite so far, or who do you think is playing the best game? I can't wait to see who Brew saves. You have to let me know what you think in the comment. All right. And that's all I have. So be sure to come back and give me a listen. I'd love for you to like, share, follow, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Okay. My name is Danielle, and you're listening to my podcast, Chatter Out Loud. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, I appreciate your support. And that's all I have. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.